Hi again. So this is our fourth episode of the Japanese exploration on the trace of ancient tradition of Shinto linked with cannabis. So I invite you to see our previous episode at Nikko Temple, where I bump into some artifacts made of cannabis directly linked with Shinto. And so I wanted to find out more about this connection. And I went to Tochigi Prefecture, so in the same prefecture of the Nikko Temple, so 1 hour from the national park of Nikko. There is a place called Nasu, and in this city there is the hemp museum of Japan, Taima Museum. Taima is the name for cannabis in Japan, and it was very, very folkloric. As I took the train, small trains to embark to Nasu from Nikko, and there was like this typical anime landscape, so full of rice fields. Was very nice to see, and I really felt like in those anime. So it was kind of a joy for me to feel this experience, and it was kind of adventure as I had like 1 hour of train, like small train to change like from station to station, and then arriving in Nasu, I took a taxi to actually go to the Taima Museum. I took about 1 hour of drive of taxi. Of course, in Japan, people don't speak much of English, so it was kind of funny as I had an old lady driving me, trying to explain, look, I'm going to the Cannabis Museum. But at the end, we made our way there, and I was honored to meet the founder of the museum, Takayasu-san, who is the founder of the museum and an advocate of Japanese hemp rights, and is considered one of the leading experts of cannabis. He founded this museum in 2001, and he specialized also in teaching workshop about fiber weaving, how to make art craft with fiber, which is very deeply rooted in the Japanese tradition, but unfortunately being lost as time goes and the prohibition stay. And Takayasu-san is really an amazing person that managed to gather a lot of information regarding cannabis in Japanese history, so from the archaeological point of view to the actual spiritual tradition. And so when I reached after 1 hour of taxi drive, I thought I was going to get lost, but finally we made it. I arrived in the museum, so I was welcomed by Takayasu-san, and he had prepared PowerPoint presentation for me to dive me into the ancient history of cannabis in Japan and to the more current situation. In all this context, cannabis in Japan is very much prohibited. So cannabis, it's very, very controlled, and at the same time kind of taboo, but as we will see, it's also part of Japanese history. So it's very paradoxal. And so here I am in front of the founder of this cannabis museum in Japan, and he showed me this presentation by starting to show that some hemp textile found in Japan date over 12,000 years old. So we can see that it's not some things from yesterday. It's very, very, very ancient. They even found some seeds in Chiba Prefecture, date of 10,000 years old. So you can see that it's kind of the foundation of the Japanese people, and as a tradition using this plant for its fiber and its seed mainly. As the fiber, they were able to build shelter for houses, they were able to craft clothes, and with the seeds they were able to feed themselves. So it was really this plant where you can have multiple purposes to sustain a human society by itself. So that's why it was probably so sacred to them, because it was the foundation of their living. Basically, without cannabis 10,000 years ago, they probably were not able to live or sustain without that plant. So that's, I believe, probably the reason why it got so sacred. But they also have like very interesting folklore story with the Shinto god. I will get into it a bit later. But to stay on the material part of it, so as I was saying, they were using the hemp for making garments. As kimono being the main garment, people are associated to the Japanese lifestyle, and so kimono was also made of hemp. It's also, they were making called the zori. Zori is like a traditional sandal made also of hemp. One also of the forms, so this is what we can see, this is the hemp rope, and this is the raw format of the fiber itself. And when it's tied together, you can actually make the rope. Those ropes were also used, as I was saying in the first video, for the sailing ship, but also for any routine activity, including pulling or any rope needed to make your work, or to go on horse riding, or it's basically being part of everyday life. So this is hemp rope by itself. There is also the purest way to get that fiber. It's by just peeling off the fiber from the stump of the cannabis, and that comes in this form. So we can see it's really neat, almost gold color, after being in that state of fiber, so that straight fiber peeled off from the stump. So for anyone that has grown cannabis or been in touch of living cannabis plant, you can see that the skin, let's say, of the plant, when it's cut, can be easily peeled off. So that's how it comes out. Then after they dry it, and they will brush it to actually separate the fiber, so they can have it in this form. And then when it's brushed, then after they can braid it to make ropes or to make garments. But this type of fiber is seen as the most holy way to have it. That's why it's actually preserved, as you see, in a very neat packaging with a written description on it, because this is also as a bring of good luck. So as we were talking about in the Nikko temple, that they had this fiber hanging out to exorcise evil spirits and to bring good luck. So this is the type of form of that fiber. And from the Shinto tradition, they mention about the founder goddess of Shinto tradition. She's called Amaterasu, and she's said coming from the sky and having golden hair. And for that tradition, they refer that the hemp fiber in that state is a sacred fiber that reminds of the golden hair of Amaterasu. She is the founding goddess of Shinto. Very interesting how they bring common goods toward the sanctification as a sacred artifact, but also being implemented in everyday life. Here we can see this is a fan made of hemp fiber, so this is hemp fiber, and with the pattern. So this pattern, it's called asanoa. It's a representation of the hemp field canopy. So if you will see a hemp field from above, actually you will see like each of the spots will be like the earth of each of the plants. So it actually can be kind of fractalized with this kind of symbol. And this pattern is often put also on the kimono. So for people who are, for example, watching anime, like Demon Slayer, for people who knows, in this specific anime, there is the sister of the heroes who is possessed, and she's wearing a kimono with this pattern, which I believe is because as a possessed person, it's helping her to protect her. So I will invite you to watch this anime. But what is interesting is that it's still being shown in current animes, but also used widely in today's kimonos, mainly for women and for newborn baby as a protection. So newborn baby, when they are coming out of their womb, they are being of the mom's womb, they are basically being warped up with a clothes with this pattern as a sign of to protect the newborn baby. And what was very interesting is that also this fiber is being used also in the garment of the Shinto priest. Takayasu-san was showing me this slide where you can see priest wearing this white clothes, large garment, and this is made of hemp, as the priest needs to be pure to be able to communicate with the gods. So he's wearing this hemp garment. And this is really very interesting again, because it's really part of their ritual. There is more ritual that Takayasu-san was telling me of people burning hemp stick fiber to purify some location or for some specific ritual. It's kind of astonishing that it's really deep in their tradition. So he was also showing to me, actually not that long ago, some school, like primary school to high school, that the main emblem of the school is actually a cannabis emblem. So this is the emblem of a school in Japan that closed up unfortunately 5 years ago. But yeah, and this is a high school and preschool emblem. So kids even wear it like on their school uniform. So again, it shows that he has this strong connection with Japanese education as well, which unfortunately is tending to be lost. But thanks to the Taima Museum, those histories are being kept alive and still being remembered by Japanese people, who even so have this big prohibition around cannabis. When talking to Japanese, they actually recognize the possibility of this connection. For people who are interested, even so it's in Japanese, there is this very nice, well-illustrated book published by the Taima Museum, what is the textbook of Taima for Japanese people. And it shows actually, that's the pictures I just showed you, but it will show you also like how the ladies were keeping their art and craft regarding fiber weaving, and the whole connection whether like this is our like incense stick that I'm being preserving, also made of hemp fiber. And this is what I was telling to you. You can see here, this is the priest wearing this white garment made of hemp. You can see here on the forehead is wearing a kind of bandana which is made of hemp fiber, and above you can see a rope, and those ropes are for people who have just look a few pictures of Shinto shrine in Japan. You always see those massive rope in front of the temple or hanging down to ring the bell, and those ropes are made of hemp fiber as to cleanse the site from the evil spirit, to keep this as a holy ground. So very, very interesting. And I start to find some answer in terms of what I was seeing in Nico, and also as I was kind of researching on my own through Google, and being in the Taima Museum, I found that this was alive and well documented. So it was very exciting for me to be able to talk to Takayasu-san, to really find out more about this true history of cannabis in Japan. But as we will see along, and as we talked a bit previously, it's linked in general cannabis with human society development, as it was the main source of sustainability back in the days, as we saw, to build a sailing ship, to wear the clothes, as we were talking on the first episode, those hemp seed oil lamp, so to have a light at night, to be able to see, to write, to have a social life. And so to continue on the pattern aspect of it, as I was talking about the kimono. So the newborn baby, not only they are wearing this kimono for protection, but when they got baptized in the Shinto tradition, Takayasu-san was telling me that basically babies has to carry 3 cannabis seeds in his hand to be able to recognize by the gods. And I was asking like, but what is the connection? Why does he have to carry those seeds? So he was telling me that those seeds are like offering to the gods, and as such they can perceive the newborn baby. As he was explaining to me that in the Shinto, the purification process, it's very important in the way that you purify your body with water. So again, it refers to some other tradition where you have the holy water being present in their ritual. But not only the water will purify your body, but you need also to purify your soul. And to purify your soul, according to Shinto, you need to have cannabis to protect you from evil. So it was quite interesting that if you don't have basically cannabis, you cannot be recognized to the gods, according to Shinto, because you will have your soul not being purified, and then as such you cannot be perceived. And then that means also, if you extend it to broader pictures, for people who like to make a wish or praise, to get those praise being answered, or at least being listened by gods, you will need to have a cannabis in your ritual. So it doesn't have to be smoking cannabis, as we can see. It's more about the presence of the cannabis fiber that will purify your vibration, let's say, as we know every different textile also are on the vibration, as some will be more conducting to electricity and some will be blocking. So if you take like modern day textile, like polyester, this is a very isolating fiber. That's why actually it's used to keep it warm. But because of this isolating aspect, it's also out of any frequency or let's say current to go through. And hemp as linen for people who are also wearing during the summer, it's a breathable textile and it's natural fiber that all this possible connection. So that's how also I kind of rationalize it when he was telling me this amazing story. But well, as we can see, we can recognize it in a certain way that could be possible. In that extent, as purification process wearing this hemp fiber, it turned out that also the Emperor of Japan, when they are being crowned, and so during their coronation ceremony, the Emperor has to wear the hemp fiber, so to be pure in front of the god to receive the blessing, as the Emperor are being the direct descendant of gods and their messenger or representative, a little bit like in Western royalty, as kings when they being crowned by the Pope, they are the messenger of God or the representative of God on earth. So in Japan, the emperor has the same role, but to have the full ceremonial, he has to have this hemp connection. And so not only is wearing the hemp garment, but is also bowing in front of a cannabis plant. So there is actually two sacred plants in Japan and Shinto tradition, is rice plant and hemp plant. So he has to bow in front of a rice plant and in front of a cannabis plant. So very, very interesting how deep this connection goes. But again, in Japan, it's completely prohibited. So this is like the big paradoxal construct that it's really hard to grasp. But I guess this is what we were talking about due to the prohibition in the early 20th centuries, which follows through in Japan. So after Second World War in 1945, there was an American general that actually pushed on prohibition of cannabis in Japan. So it was brought to the Japanese by American, and from that time, so since 1945, people lost this connection and basically have forgotten the story of its use and the traditional. Well, a funny story and correlation is that Seiko, so this is a Seiko watch. Seiko has made a full lineage or series of watch called Presage, and you can go and check it out on the internet. Presage Seiko watch. They have a whole presentation where they are talking about the pattern. So this Asanoa pattern that has more than 1,000 years old used, and they put this pattern in the back of the watch, and they claim that this is a pattern of robustness, longevity, and spirituality. So as we deal with time with Seiko, so time can be seen as God in a certain fashion. So I found it very interesting that mainstream brands in Japan are actually still using this history and giving credit to it as they are putting inside of their product. So even so it's been lost, it's still being out there and kind of remembering. One also very interesting aspect that I found out when I was talking with Takaya Susan is that so you see this is pattern fractal, but if you pull out this pattern in the single fashion, it actually look like 6 pointed stars for most, or the Merkaba, but for most people, they would probably associate it with the Star of Israel, Star of David. And it's quite interesting because though it drove me the attention, so like, wow, it looks like Star of David, so could it be a Judaic connection into it? And as funny as it seems, looking into ancient Japanese history, there is an ancient document which is called the Takanushi document, which is like thousands of years old and was being released to the public in the early 20s by a priest from the Takanushi family that was keeping this document secret and that released it. And in this document, they actually talk about about Moïse that could have come to Japan, and talking also about Jesus that came to Japan. And when I look and doing some research, there is a site where they claim to have the tomb of Christ. So I decided to actually go there and see for myself. This is actually in the north part of Japan, close to the Hokkaido. It's called the Aomori Prefecture, the region, and this is going to be for our next episode, where we're gonna go and talk about possible connection with Jesus and the presence of his tomb in Japan. So stay with us, click the like button, subscribe, the follow, and see you on the next episode for this exciting time.